Welcome to the first ever Red Evony Awards, where we'll be showcasing for you the best sub-generals available in the game. And I will be your host for this event. You can call me Aka. Here's how this is going to work. We're going to cover the main groups of debuff stats in the game. That's attack, defense, and HP. However, since some debuffs are more important than others, we'll only be covering select types of debuffs within each group. Each group will be divided into two categories. One for free generals and the other for premium generals. We're going to go through the top 3 generals in each category and also go through any honorable mentions that we have for that category. Finally, we'll wrap it all up by covering all-purpose debuff generals. That's generals that will give you debuffs irrespective of the troop type. So, now that we've gone through all of that, let's get right into it. First, we're going to look at the attack group. And the first debuff that we're going to look at in this group is mounted attack debuff. Here, we have our first honorable mention, and that is Edward the Black Prince. For the free generals, he didn't make the top 3, but he's a viable option for you to keep in mind. Now, coming in at 3rd place, we have Wei Quinn. Wei Quinn's main skill will give you 15% mounted attack debuff, and you'll get a little extra in his first ascension. Coming in at number 2, we have Himiko. Himiko's main skill will give you 25% mounted attack debuff, and in her specialties, you can get a bit more extra debuffs if you're willing to go that far. Now, coming in at number 1 for mounted attack debuff in the free category, we have the Lady Margaret. Margaret will give you a total of 30% mounted attack debuff from her main skill alone. You will get some extra debuffs if you manage to get to her final specialty, and she has some more debuffs in her ascension, which, if you have the resources to go that far, will get you quite a bit more mounted attack debuffs. So those are the top 3 options that we have in the free category for mounted attack debuff. Now we move to the premium category. It turns out that there aren't many premium generals that give mounted attack debuffs in the game. So, for this category, we have only 2 generals, and they are Constantine the Great. From his main skill alone, you will get 20% mounted attack debuff. You will get some more if you get to his final specialty, and he has a bit more in his ascensions as well. And coming in at number 1, we have Jan Carlo Hodkiewicz. I believe is how it's pronounced. Hodkiewicz will give you 25% mounted troop attack from his main skill. You will get some more attack debuffs in his second specialty and in his final specialty as well. You will also get additional debuffs in his ascensions. Next, we're going to ranged attack. For the free generals, coming in at number 3, we have Alexander Nevsky. Nevsky's main skill will give you 10% debuff to ranged troop attack. You could get a little more in his second specialty, and that's about it. Now, coming in at number 2, we have Arminius. In addition to other debuffs that you will get with Arminius, you will also get 15% ranged troop attack debuff. You will get a bit more in his second specialty and some more in his ascension, but only if you can make it to the 5th ascension. Now, for number 1 in the free category for ranged troop attack debuff, we have Mr. Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson has been a long-time favorite in Evony for both free-to-play players and coiners as well. Andrew Jackson will give you 20% ranged troop attack from his main skill alone. You will get some more debuffs in his second specialty and in his final specialty if you can make it all the way to the end. In addition, you will get some more debuffs if you manage to ascend him to the 4th and to the 5th level. So that's it for the free category for ranged attack. Next, we have the premium category for ranged attack. And this one was a bit tough because there are quite a few good generals in this category. So in order to keep the comparison as simple as possible, the focus here was the ranged troop attack debuff that you can get from the generals when they are fully maxed out. Based on that, for our honorable mentions, we have the Barbarian King and Baldwin. These two generals are very good generals. They didn't make the top 3, but if you have them, they are good for you to work with. Now, coming in at 3rd place, we have Knut the Great. Knut the Great's main skill will give you 35% ranged attack debuff. In addition to other debuffs, you will get some more debuffs in his second specialty, in his final specialty, and in his ascension as well. Fully maxed out, Knut will give you 91% ranged attack debuff. Coming in at number 2, we have Mark Antony, and his main skill will give you 35% ranged attack debuff. In addition, you will get some debuffs in his second specialty and in his final specialty as well. Also, there are a lot more debuffs available in his ascensions. Fully maxed out, Mark Antony will give you 100% ranged attack debuff. Now, finally, coming in at number 1, we have Hojo Ujiyasu. Hojo is a new general, and at the time of this video, a lot of people might not be aware of him, but he is currently the number 1 pick for ranged attack debuff in the game. If you look at his skill, he gives you 35% ranged attack debuff and 35% mounted HP debuff. If that sounds familiar to you, that's because he is practically the upgraded premium version of Andrew Jackson. So it makes sense that he is a good general. You will get some more debuffs in his second specialty, in his final specialty, and in his ascension as well. Fully maxed out, Hojo will give you 110% ranged attack debuff. Next, we're going to ground attack debuff. For the free category, we really have only one entry. So, the one and only best free general you can get for ground attack debuff is Wei Quinn. Wei Quinn, from his main skill, will give you 15% ground attack debuff. Also, if you do his first ascension, you will get a bit more debuff in there as well. Now, going to the premium generals for this category. This was also a tough category, although not as tough as the range attack debuff category. So, before we get to the main 3, here are the honorable mentions that we have. We have Gilgamesh and Amir ibn al-As. These are good generals, and if you get them, they will give you nice debuffs, but they didn't quite make our top 3. So, with that said, coming in at number 3, we have Constantine the Great. Constantine, amongst other things, will give you 20% ground troop attack debuff in his main skill. You will get some more debuffs in his 4th specialty and also in his ascension as well. Fully maxed out, Constantine will give you 80% ground troop attack debuff. Now, coming in at number 2, we have Yon Gaisomon. Yon's main skill will give you 40% ground troop attack debuff. And out of the 3 generals that we're covering in the top 3, his main skill gives you the most ground attack debuff of all of them. You will also get some more debuffs in his 4th specialty and also in his Ascension as well. Fully maxed out, Yon will give you 75% ground attack debuff. And you might notice that that is slightly less than what Constantine will give you fully maxed out. However, Yon gives you a lot more debuffs for other troop types as well as ground troops along the way. So that is why he comes in at number 2. Finally, coming in at number 1, we have Darius the First. Darius at this point is practically a legendary general in Evony. The guy is really good and he hardly ever shows up. For his main skill, he gives 35% ground attack debuff. You also get some debuffs in his 2nd specialty, as well as his 4th specialty and his Ascension. Fully maxed out, Darius will give you 105 ground troop attack debuff. Next, we're going to cover defense. And in this category, we'll only be looking at ground troop defense. And funnily enough, there are hardly any premium generals that have ground troop defense as the main stat in their main skill. Because of that, we will only be looking at the free category for ground troop defense. Coming in at number 3, we have Robert Guiscard. As part of his main skill, Guiscard will give you 15% ground troop defense debuff. And that's about it. Coming in at number 2, and this might surprise quite a few people, we have William Wallace. William Wallace, his free skill will give you 20% ground troop defense debuff. And you get a bit extra in his Ascension. Coming in at number 1, we have Empress Sixi. Empress Sixi, her main skill, in total will give you 30% ground troop defense debuff, as well as 15% defense debuff to other troop types. You get some HP debuff in her 2nd specialty and some more defense debuff in her final specialty, as well as all through her Ascension. Now, moving on to HP debuff. HP is one of those debuffs that you get scattered around with a lot of generals. There are very few generals in the game that specialize for giving HP debuff. So, because of that, we're gonna cover all-round HP debuff for all troop types, and there are only 2 generals that we'll be looking at that will give you all-round HP debuffs. Coincidentally, both of them are free generals. So, coming in at number 2, we have Harold. Harold will give you 10% debuff to all troop types, in addition to other debuffs. But you get a bit more HP debuff in his Ascensions. Now, coming in at number 1 for HP debuff, we have Nero. Nero is an old school general in Evony. A lot of people wrote him off, myself included, but it looks like he has made a comeback. Nero gives you 15% HP debuff to all troop types in his main skill, and you get some more HP debuff to all troop types in his final specialty. In addition to that, you get some more debuffs in his Ascension. And the good thing with Nero is the HP debuffs are in his 1st and his 2nd Ascension, making them relatively easy to get compared to some other generals. So, now that we've covered all-round HP debuff, as a little special extra, a lot of people, particularly advanced level players, are looking at Siege HP debuff. So now, we're going to cover the top 3 generals in the game for Siege HP debuff. Now, the first two generals that we're going to look at are actually tied in their position for Siege HP debuff. And those are Baldwin, when fully maxed out, will give you 45% Siege HP debuff, and the Barbarian King. Fully maxed out will also give you 45% HP debuff. Coming in at number 2, we have Nero. Yep, Nero making a comeback. Fully maxed out, Nero will give you 51% Siege HP debuff. And the convenient thing about Nero, as I mentioned earlier, is that most of his HP debuffs come in his first and his second ascension. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Giancarlo Hodkiewicz. Hodkiewicz will give you 30% Siege HP debuff from his main skill. You will get some more debuffs in his 4th specialty and some more debuffs in his ascension as well. Fully maxed out, Hodkiewicz will give you 90% Siege HP debuff. Next, we're going to look at all-purpose debuff generals, in quote. These are generals that will give you debuffs irrespective of the troop type that you're looking for. So if you have no preference for the debuffs that you want, you can just stick these guys in and they'll debuff all troops. We will be focusing on attack debuffs. For the free category, the honorable mention that we have here is Vladimir. And coming in at 3rd place, we have Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa gives you 10% enemy troop attack debuff, and that's for all troops. And you also get increased sub-city survival with him. For number 2, we have Harold. Harold will give you 10% enemy troop attack debuff to all troops and 10% enemy troop HP debuff to all troops as well. Finally, coming in at number 1 for the free category for all-purpose generals, we have Margaret. Margaret will give you 10% troop attack debuff to all troops and an additional 20% debuff for mounted troop attack. Mounted troop attack might not be your main concern, but with Margaret, you will debuff all troops and get a little extra as well. Next, going to the premium category, and we only have 2 entries in this category. So, coming in at number 2, we have Yon Gaisomon. Yon will give you 10% debuff to all troops and an additional 30% debuff to ground troop attack. Now, coming in at number 1, and this is going to crack quite a few people up. The best all-purpose general for attack debuff in Evony is Jester. Yep, for an all-purpose general, Jester is the best one in Evony. And his main skill gives you 15% troop attack debuff to all troops. In addition, you get HP debuff in his 2nd specialty and more attack troop debuff in his final specialty. You also get more attack debuffs in his ascension. So, for anyone that has Jester, you can slap him in there and he'll do the business for you. So, now that we've covered the best sub-generals in Evony, you might still have difficulty making a decision on which general you should use. And in that case, be sure to check out the next video where I give advice on which sub-generals you should use depending on the stage of the game that you are at, from beginner going all the way to advanced level. Thank you very much. Aka signing out.